All right, guys, welcome to another episode. I'm Orlando.
And I'm Omar,
We're the Smart Bros.
and this is the Smart Take.
I just want to welcome you back to another episode. This is season 2, episode 8, and we're gonna go over our predictions. We're gonna recap what we just went over with the Rams game, and then as well as preview what we got coming up against the Eagles. Probably at this point, for sure, the biggest game of the season. I mean, you could say that kind of about each week, kind of that, but at that point, but looking at the overall picture, looking down the road, looking down the line, this game is going to mean a lot because, in my opinion, if we can win this game, we should be able to sweep the Eagles. We should be able to beat them at home. We're pretty dominant on the road at home right now. I think we've won 11 straight in Jerry World. So this is a big game for us. It's a litmus test. It's kind of to show us where we are at this point in the season. Right now, the Eagles are, as much as it pains me to say, the best team in the NFL right now. So until they're dethroned from that, which we could do this week, I mean, they're going to have that title. So, I mean, we can get right into it. Before we even get to that, we can go back and talk about that Rams game. What are your initial thoughts on how we played against LA?
I was a big fan, through and through. We beat them on all facets of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. Dak had a master class, of course. I'm not that I'm surprised. That's what he does. He's a good quarterback. He's a top five, if you ask me, quarterback. There's not too many quarterbacks I would put above him. You can't. I feel like it's Patty and then everybody else. So if you want to, you can compare him to all the good quarterbacks in the league, elite quarterbacks in the league, and he's going to show up. As y'all know, that I undersold all of our players' performances the last 2 weeks, and they've exceeded it. So I said Dak would throw for 215 and 3 touchdowns. He threw for 304 and 4 touchdowns. He did have a pick. It was right back to those tip picks. First the D line, then our tight end pick tipped it, and they got a pick. I mean, but he still finished with one of the highest pass ratings in the league. So not really too upset with that. Like about to say, I'm not saying I thought this. I was just saying this, hoping they would exceed this. I said CD would have 65 yards and a touchdown. He had 12 catches, 158 yards, which are both career highs, and 2 touchdowns. I said Gallup had 45 yards and a touchdown. He underperformed. I'm not even say he underperformed, but he had 20 yards. So that's maybe it was lack of targets or this and that. And I say Cooks will have 50 yards, which he ended up having 49, but he had a touchdown in back-to-back weeks where we finally got him on a somewhat of a deep ball. It was 30 plus yards. He hit him a stop and go. I read something that said he told Mike McCarthy if he just hit a stutter on him, he's gonna be wide open. I said we have a tight end touchdown, of course. Ferg called his tight end touchdown, which we've had that touchdown pretty much every game. Our tight ends have just dropped it. Ferg called it this week. So kudos to him. I said TP would have 55 yards and a touchdown. He only had 53 yards, so that's pretty much dead on, but he didn't have a touchdown. I said Mike would have 2 sacks. He only had one. I said we have 2 picks. We had one pick, but it was a pick six. Shout out to Ron Bland, who leads the league in pick sixes with 3. He has 4 in the season, which I think is tied for second. So pick six is better than 2 picks, if you ask me, because you get the points on the board. We had 3 sacks. We only had 2. And then I said we'd have win 30-17. We exceeded that. Clearly, we won 43-20. What were your predictions? What'd you get right? How'd you feel about the game? Tell me all that.
So I'll just start with how I felt about the game. Honestly, this was the most complete game we've played all season. In my opinion, if you take away that Dak Prescott interception, that we would have played a completely perfect game. I don't think I would have been able to come away with anything that could really kind of harp on. And even with the pick, like you said, it was tipped by the D lineman. It was tipped by a tight end. But at the end of the day, I can like I said, I've always felt like I've been transparent with Dak. I felt like I've always held him to regular standard, and I've held him accountable when things are his fault. And even with all those tips, I still think it was a bad decision, a bad throw to make that at the time. So even with the tips, I'm still gonna put the blame on that interception for him, just because I don't think it was that good of a pass. But like I said, take that away. He had a perfect game, threw for 4 touchdowns, 300 plus yards. He was running. He was escaping the pocket when he was getting pressure because our line wasn't
100%.
holding up too well. I mean, I just think this was, like you said, a masterclass from Dak Prescott. Even if I know a lot of people, even they might say, "Oh, wow, 300 yards isn't that much," but I mean, it's not like he's going to throw for 400 yards. And if that's kind of just the box score watching, because like I said, I've had that told to me since then that that wasn't that great of a performance. He only threw for 300 yards, and it wasn't. And it's like if you just look at the box score, I mean, even if you just look at the box score, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. I don't know how much. Like obviously you can throw for more yards, but most people aren't throwing for more than 4 touchdowns in one game. So I feel like that's just kind of box score watching. Because if you look at the individual plays he made, it was
On top
incredible
of
the
80
way.
plus percent.
Exactly. So the way he was creating plays with his legs, when he's extending plays with his legs, scrambling, hitting people on the run, I don't understand how you could possibly ask for more from Dak Prescott after that game. So I just want to give him his credit, just like people love to give him the blame whenever things are going bad. So I just want to start there. And then getting into my prediction, and also not only Dak Prescott, but CeeDee Lamb, masterclass from him as well. He and I've had conversations in the past about his not his ability to be a number one wide receiver, but just more of the aura around him. He doesn't he in other games before his presence. He didn't have a number one. He has the ability to be a number one, but he didn't have a number one receiver type presence just in a game where it's like you just got to get him the ball, or he's so wide open. It looks bad on you if you're not throwing him the ball, but that really hadn't been the case. But in this game, he was open. Even when he wasn't open, he was catching contested balls. He was fighting for extra yards. His run after the catch was amazing in this game. I mean, in this game, only reason when this game, the two MVPs were by far Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So definitely want to just give them their flowers. But then getting into my predictions, I predicted that Dak would throw for 280 and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, he threw for more, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he exceeded my expectations. I thought that Tony Pollard would have 80 yards and a touchdown. He was only able to get 53 yards, no touchdowns, but that's not a knock on him, really. I feel like as a whole, our run game right now is kind of suspect. In the past, our red zone offense was our weakest link, and right now, I'd have to say that our run game is our weakest link right now. So, which mean like it's not just the end all be all. It can improve. So I'm just holding out hope that it gets better. Tony Pollard can, and it's not even I don't even think it's a knock on Tony Pollard's his ability or even the season he's having. I think our line is having a pretty. I think our line is having a pretty disappointing season right now. Even in the past, like we're getting nothing on the run right now, and even in the past game, if Dak isn't scrambling, rolling out, just making plays happen out of nothing, we're kind of not getting as much as we could. So I'd like to see our line step up a little more, and that would help Tony Pollard get some of those yards I predict. But until then, that's just what it is. I predicted that CD would have 10 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. He had 12 catches, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he blew out. And you were on the side of kind of undercutting them, hoping they exceed past your predictions. And I was just predicting of like I said in all my predictions, I was predicting more of what I hope we could do, with I hope our offense turned into, and he exceeded even that. So I can't harp on it enough how amazing CeeDee Lamb was in this game. I predicted that Brandon Cooks would have 5 catches for 65 yards. He ended up having 3 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, I wasn't just completely wrong, but he did better than what I could have expected. So, props to him for that. I predicted that Michael Gallup would have 6 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. We still haven't really seen the Michael Gallup of the past. At this point in the season, it's time to start wondering if we're ever going to see that, because I mean, 8 weeks in, you can't if you're going to keep hoping for what we got in the past, or we're going to be disappointed every week. So he ended up only having 2 catches, 20 yards, no touchdowns, and I mean, our only thing we can do now is just hold out hope that he can get back to that. And maybe just kind of transitioning him to more in that solidified third receiver role, because I think coming into the season, it was kind of up in the air who was going to be our number two receiver. Like, obviously, Brandon Cooks had shown no matter where he was at, he had that ability to produce. But we were holding out hope that Michael Gallup would come back from his injury and return to what he was before, the toe taps, the contested ball, jump balls,
Jump
just all
balls,
that.
yeah.
And we just really haven't seen that. So until then, I'm like I said, I'm not gonna. My predictions are always gonna hold out hope that they can get to that. So that's where I'm just gonna keep it at that. And then I predicted that we'd have a tight end touchdown, and like you said, Ferg finally caught that touchdown. That's a play we've gotten that open, like you said, probably every single week, and that's honestly the first time it was actually brought in. I don't want to just completely blame the tight ends, because if I can remember correctly, there were a couple times where it was a bad pass by Dak, but I feel like as a quarterback, you're going to have more bad. You can afford to have a couple bad passes, but as a receiver, tight end, as a pass catcher, dropping touchdowns isn't that's not going to do you that well. It's not going to work out for you in the long run. So I'm very glad to see that Ferg finally got that touchdown, caught the ball, held on to it. It was an amazing catch, by the way. As much as it was an amazing throw, because Dak had to put it in the one spot that the defender couldn't get to, but it also that made for a very hard catch for Ferg, and he brought it in, and was ended up being mainly a one-hand catch. Obviously, he caught it one end and brought it in with both, but from jump, it was a one-hand catch. So got to give him his props there. And then I predicted that Michael would have 2 sacks. He only had one, but like we say every week, his pressures are almost just as good as a sack. Matthew Stafford
8.
kind of he had Matthew Stafford all over the place, and then even when his name is slipped, it's like Stipend or Ripon or something, like whoever their backup quarterback is, he came in and he was also uncomfortable just from the pressure that Micah brought. I thought that D-Law would have a sack, and at this point, I might just that might be one of my predictions. I kind of stopped predicting only because a sack isn't necessary for D-Law to impact the game. He's shown week in, week out, he can pressure the quarterback. He can have the quarterback feeling uncomfortable in the pocket, and that's gonna do our team just almost just as good as a sack will do. So he didn't have a sack, but like we say every week, his pressure did exactly what it needed to do. I thought that we'd have an interception from Stephon Gilmore and from one of our safeties, and Deron Blaine got the only interception of the game, but it was a pick six. So props in for that. He now has the franchise record for pick sixes in the season and is one away from tying the NFL's record for pick sixes in the season. So hopefully he can get that fourth one and tie that record this upcoming week. That'll be the sweetest thing I've ever seen. But and then I predicted that we would win 28-10. Hold on. Yeah, I predicted that we would win 28-10, and like you said, we completely blew that out and won the game 43-20. So I'm proud of the guys for proving both of us
100%.
wrong. But I mean, I feel like proving you wrong is kind of expected. Like that's what we would
Expected,
want.
yeah.
But proving me wrong is like, wow, you guys played amazing. And that's all I can really say about them. But that's our recap of the Rams game. And now we're going to transition to what's honestly got to be the biggest game of the season. That obviously up until most times the game that week is going to be the biggest game of the season. But the Eagles, everybody knows the Eagles and Cowboys rivalry alone that's a conversation in itself. And just with both teams being very successful this year, that brings a whole new level to
As
it.
well as the last couple years.
Exactly. So, what are your thoughts going into this game?
Hey man, don't get me wrong. Like you said, they're probably the best team in the league right now, but they be in dogfights with the bad teams. So like they're 100% beatable. Clearly, they have a loss this season, and if you want the truth, they could have had a couple more. Um, so I really think we can go out there and stun in at the link. I feel like we just need to pressure Jalen Hurts. We need to make him get the ball out fast. I'm not sure what we need to do in terms of AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or maybe we should put whichever one we feel is our better cornerback with Deron Bland or Stephon Gilmore on their number two and be like, okay, we're gonna let AJ get what he gets, but we're not gonna let anybody else beat us. We might want to do one of those, or we could be like, all right, we are gonna make somebody other than Jalen or AJ Brown beat us. So not really sure what our plan is with that. So we'll see what happens. But well, the last 2 weeks I've undersold us and it's worked. So why not try to go 3 for 3? I think
Third
Dak could
time's a charm.
go. I think Dak will throw for 225 and 3 touchdowns, which that's not asking for a lot. I mean, 225 is not crazy. 3 touchdowns is very doable, especially with our run game being a bit of non-existent, as well as they have a pretty good D line. So we might have to be having to air it out, and their secondary is not as good as it was probably last year with multiple Pro Bowlers. They had some trades. They did get a All Pro safety from the Titans, so that might change a little bit of things. But I still think we can, have a solid day throwing. I think CD will have 70 yards, touchdown because he's been in a little groove lately. So 70 yards is not too much. A touchdown. If we emphasize that we're going to go to him early and often, maybe we'll get him a touchdown. I think Gallup only had 55 yards. I think he'll have, like I said last week, I think he'll have at least one long catch. Maybe he can get back to his toe tap era. I don't think he'll have any touchdowns. I think we're finally figuring out how to use Cooks. That's 2 touchdowns in as many weeks. So I think we'll have 60 yards in a touchdown. Of course, a tight end touchdown. Like I said, that's just like the Micah sacks. I'm always going to say a tight end touchdown, regardless of how I think we're going to play. I think TP will have like 68 yards in a touchdown, whether that's receiving or rushing. I'm not really sure. I do think because he didn't score last week or I don't think he scored the week before against the Chargers either, even though he had that long reception. I don't think that. I think he'll get in the end zone, find the end zone again. I think Micah have 2 sacks, just like clockwork. Even if he doesn't, Micah has proven that he's very capable. So I'm going to pretty much say it every week, week in and week out, regardless if he does it or not. I think we'll have a pick just because Jalen Hurts has been turning the ball over at a very high rate so far. I don't know who he'll throw it to. And hopefully Deron Bland could break the record with the pick sixes. Or, I mean, even if it's just a pick, I'm okay with that too. I think we'll have 2 sacks overall. So I'll say 3. I'll say 3 sacks. I think Michael will have 2. I think somebody else will come in with 1. And I think we'll win in a shootout, but I think we'll win 28-24. How about you?
So, in my opinion, this game really is going to come down to their offense versus our defense. Well, okay, no, in my opinion, I think this game is going to come down to our offense versus their defense. I think right now their offense has shown that they can be one of the best in the league, and I think our defense has shown that they can be one of the best things in the league, one of the best units in the league. So I feel like those will kind of cancel each other out. But then in the same sense, their defense has shown that they're one of, I wouldn't say the worst in the league, but they show that they can get points scored on them, and they just aren't as good as they were last year. And same with our offense. I think that we've shown very subpar offensive play leading up into the LA games. I think these last 2 games, our offense has kind of flipped a switch and kind of got more into the groove as like they should. But as a whole, our offense this season has probably been our weakest link. So I think it's really going to be whether or not our offense can continue what we've done in the past couple of weeks versus a defense that has shown that they can be beaten. And I think that'll be the biggest key to the game. I think that, and then in terms of them offensively, I think as long as we can keep them from third or fourth and short, and they can pull out the tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, I think we'll fare really well against them. Like you said, Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over a lot this season. I mean, some might even call him a turnover machine. I know they would call another quarterback.
I know I would.
I don't know who they would, but there's another quarterback that would definitely be getting labeled as a turnover machine if he had more than 10 turnovers before the halfway point in the season. That's another conversation for another day. So I think that getting into my predictions, I think that Dak will throw for 375 and 4 touchdowns. And I don't even think that's Now, obviously, that would be his season high in passing yards this season, but I honestly don't think that's too crazy, seeing as Sam Howell just threw for almost 400 yards on them that last game. Just throughout the season, they've shown this ability to be able to really stop the pass, even with Darius Slay being out there, James Bradbury, who most Eagles fans, I mean, who the league would consider an All-Pro. He was an All-Pro previously, but I personally have always seen James Bradbury as a cone. Maybe it's just because
A
I'm,
cone. Cone's
maybe
like
it's because
not there.
maybe I can just attribute that to me watching them a lot more closely when he's playing the Cowboys and him never being able to do much, especially when CeeDee Lamb was guarding him. And that was even before he was on the Eagles. Granted, he was on the Giants, another NFC East rival, so it's not like my bias would have changed that much. But I mean, it's not biased to say CD scores almost every time they line up against each other. So I think that their defense is definitely showing a weakness that we can exploit. I think that I think that Tony Pollard will have 65 yards and a touchdown. Like you said, he hasn't scored the past 2 weeks, but I think that'll change this coming week. But I don't think our run game will get going as much as it should and put him over 100 yards. I think it'll be a threat, and he'll definitely have an effect on the game positively for us. But it'll be with 65 yards and a touchdown. I think CD will continue the run he's on right now. I think he'll have 10 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. I think this will actually be kind of a breakout game for Brandon Cooks. Like you said, we're starting to finally get him incorporated into the offense more than just like short, just slant routes when that's not been a facet of his game that he's just kind of blown the top off with. Like, not saying he's incapable of it, but Brandon Cooks is a receiver who's known for his speed, known for his ability to catch the ball down the field, and just known for his big plays. So I feel like now that we've kind of integrated him into this offense, he'll be able to find that and be able to go for. I think this will be his first 100-yard game as a Cowboy, and I think he'll continue his streak with another touchdown. I think this will also be a game where Michael Gallup will not. I don't think we'll just see the Michael Gallup from the past, but just with the focus that they put on him in the offense, I think the game before against the Chargers, he was a very large focal point of our offense, and then against the Rams, they kind of dialed back a bit, but. I think that wasn't due. I think that was just more of CD being open a lot. But I think with our run offense not being able to really get going, I think Dak will really be throwing the ball, putting the ball through the air, and that'll work out well for Michael Gallup. I think he'll be able to get 75 yards and he'll have another touchdown this year. I mean, this game, obviously, always going to predict a tight end touchdown because that's just the way we run our
Always.
offense. We're going to put our
That's how
tight
it
ends in
is.
position to score. And this point, it's just up to them. So obviously, first it's up to Dak to get them the ball. What he does that more often than not. So at this point, it's up to them to catch the ball. And then I think Michael will have 2 sacks. I think he's kind of not even kind of, he's definitely fallen in the ranks of defensive player of the year, and that's definitely something he wants. So a game like this will be definitely the game to prove it. 2 sacks in this game would look better than 2 sacks in one of the previous games. So if he can get back to his true self, I think this is the game to do it. I think that D-Law will have a sack. And even if he doesn't, that's kind of something I predict week in, week out. But even if he doesn't get it, his pressure alone does what we need it to do. So whether he gets a sack or not, I'm going to predict it. But I just think that he's that type of player to where his presence is felt on the field at all times. I think that we'll have 4 sacks total, which is kind of
Oh,
high,
oh,
just given the
okay.
amount of just given. I understand that Jalen Hurts is he's good on his feet. He's good at feeling pressure and escaping the pocket and running. So I think it's going to be a tough test for our defensive line to get those sacks. But I have faith in them that they can get 4 with Micah getting 2, D-Law getting 1, either Osa or Dorrance Armstrong getting that other one because they've been having really great seasons. I think that Stephon Gilmore will get a pick and we'll have a safety get an interception because just what I think the way the game will go, I think we will put Stephon Gilmore on A.J. Brown but make sure to have safety help at all times. And if we don't, that's kind of doing Stephon Gilmore a disservice because as much as it hurts me to say, AJ Brown is playing like one of the best receivers in the entire NFL right now. I think Honestly, the only receiver who can say that they're playing better than him right now is Tyreek Hill. But so I want to give him his props. But I think the way we can stop him is by bracketing him, making sure we have safety coverage. Because even though teams have tried that in the past, I think our safeties are a lot better than some of the other safeties in the league. So I think that's how we'll get that. I think Stephon Gilmore will be in the line of fire a lot, and I think Deron Bland will have some pass breakups, but no pick. He will. I think the way they'll run the defense, they'll have Stephon on AJ, Deron on Devontae Smith, and we'll see how it goes. But I like our guys against their guys. Just it's all going to come down to scheme. If they can scheme them open, it's going to be tough for us. But if our defensive scheme is working well, our players are good enough to nullify their players. And I think the final score will be 28-21. I think we'll win by one touchdown, and I think it'll be definitely, like you said, it's going to be a hard fought game. I wouldn't necessarily call that a shootout, but it's definitely going to come down to the wire.
I mean, hey, it's always a fun game when we play Philly. You know, you get the bragging rights until the next game, which is to be in December at Jerry World. So it's always nice to get that first game because you know the other team can't really say much, especially. And this will be the first time we've seen Dak versus Jalen in a while. You know, last year we had Cooper Rush the first game, and then they had Gardner Minshew the next game. So you know there was always that speculation who would have won with both quarterbacks. So you know, and this is going to come down to you know, this is going to come down to big consideration on who wins the NFC as well as the NFC East at the end of the season. So if you know, if we win, we'll lock up first spot. Not lock up first spot. We'll have first place in the division. At not only the division, the whole NFC, because right now they're first, and then they'll have 2 losses as well as we have, but we'll have the tiebreaker if we beat them. So this upcoming schedule is very interesting. Like I said, I like our guys, of course, versus the Eagles, and I hope we can come out with the win.
Definitely, same. I mean, like you hit it pretty much on the head. This game is kind of gonna set the precedent for the rest of the season in the NFC as a whole, not just the NFC East, because other than us two, it's really just the Lions and the 49ers as the other contenders. You might be able to throw the Seahawks in there, but I mean, two of the top contending teams in the NFC will be playing against each other. So I feel like this will be a very good showing of who will come out in the East. I think, even though I feel like with them playing at home, them winning means less than us winning. Because I mean, us going into Philly on the road, being the underdog, I feel like that means a lot more than them being favored at home. So we can win this game, in my opinion. I think we'll be able to sweep them this season, which would be the first time. And I think we did it. Last time we did it was probably the last. I think actually we did do it in 2021. Yeah, cut that out. Yeah, like I said, this game would set the precedent of what's going to happen at the end of the season. But if we can beat them here, it gives me even more hope more faith that we can beat them at home, seeing as we've won the last 11 at Jerry World. So this would be a big game for us. But that's all we have, guys. We recapped the Rams game. We recapped the Rams game, dived into the Philadelphia games, probably our biggest game of the season. But we just need you guys to keep liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, telling people about it, hitting that notification button for us. I mean, all y'all support this is the reason we keep going, keep pushing
100%.
pushing content out for you guys. So as long as you guys keep supporting us, we'll keep making videos for you.
100%. We appreciate everything. You know, don't get me wrong. We have fun doing it, but we also love doing it for y'all. You know, giving y'all our takes. You know, giving our opinions and things like that. So, you know, like you said, keep commenting, liking, subscribing, supporting, sharing. But like you said, that's another episode. We'll come back to y'all with our hopefully a good video, you know, a recap of the Eagles game, you know, and then we'll have a preview for the next game. But, you know, got to take it one game at a time. We have the game of the week, of course. You know, this is actually a good weekend for football. Not only our game is pretty good. I know we have the Jets and the Bills, which the Jets haven't been looking that great, but they've been
They
looking
beat the
better as
Bills.
of late. They beat the Bills the first game. Aaron Rodgers isn't back, but they say he might come back. And then we have the Dolphins and the Chiefs at the London game. So, there's some good football to be played this week, And I mean, of course, we're not that big on the other teams, but I still like to watch good football, but above all, I like Cowboys wins. So, hopefully, we can pull that dub out. But with that being said, take us out.
All right, guys. I'm Orlando.
And I'm Omar.
We're the Smart Bros.
And this is a smart take.